Christopher Hitchens is here, born in England, educated at Oxford. He has become a Washington insider, known for his prolific writing and for his wit. He's a longtime contributor to The Nation and Vanity Fair. His new book is called No One Left to Lie To: The Triangulations of William Jefferson Clinton. Explain to me your feelings about him and how you came to these conclusions, because you are as passionate about your animus towards him as anyone I know.
Yes, I really don't like him. My little book is, in part, is an address, I hope it's got a general interest, but in part it's a reproach to the American left, to the American liberals, for falling for him and for defending him when, apart from anything else, he is an extremely, and always has been, a very extremely conservative person politically, but also because of his corrupt and selfish, and I would say mean, almost psychopathically deceitful tendencies that have done enormous damage to politics, as any honest person could appreciate them. I think it's been a tremendous sign of the degeneration of American liberalism.
You come to
and that's been an argument really well worth having, because it's fratricide.
I'm prepared to argue that debate. I mean, may have that debate with you in a sense, not debate, but pleased to engage you on it. But you say so many things that it's quickly to jump on them. One, you come at this from your own ideological position, which is where?
Well to the left of Mr. Clinton, well to the left of most people.
So the difference in Blair and Clinton,
in many ways,
for your
the
money,
differences with Clinton, you see, are not political. They are to do with a ruthless, megalomaniac political style, and with a real self-advertised readiness for corruption and dirty work, which is what got me into trouble with him and his cohort.
All right, well,
are we getting ahead of the story?
Well, yes, but that's okay.
I can begin at the beginning if you like. In New Hampshire, I always suspected that Clinton. I always thought this new liberal Democrat, or rather, excuse me, New Democrat and Democratic Leadership Council, DLC, was a bit glib and a bit sordid, because if you, after 8 years of Reagan and 4 of Bush, to conclude that the main problem in American politics was that the Democratic Party was too much to the left, seemed to me a weird conclusion. And it was all based on saying, well, what we've really got to do is address the morals of the underclass. That's the real problem with this country, is the underclass doesn't behave well. I thought that actually there were some overclass problems that needed attention, so I admit I went to New Hampshire not liking him. I didn't much care about the Flowers business. I still don't. I think he treated her very badly.
Jennifer Flowers.
Yeah, I think he treated her very badly, and I think he lied to everyone about it. But that seems so unsurprising.
But any other politician would have handled that the same way, would he not?
Here's what he did.
But any other politician would have tried to.
No, if Mr. Clinton had said, yes, I did, I loved her, and it's none of your damn business, we'd be living in a much better culture now, and I would have applauded him if he'd said that. And it would also been true.
That he loved her?
Yeah, well, he certainly acted like he did. He's since
loved her?
Yes. They were obviously very tight, and she really loved him.
Yeah, did he love Monica?
Well, suppose that he had said he loved her, and yes, I did. That would have just been a little nicer than saying, well, no, I had nothing to do with her, and then 7 years later saying, okay, I did it with her once, and that was it. As if he doesn't know that it's the height of bad manners to sleep with someone once.
But Washington is full of politicians who are not stepping forward to say, I had an affair with someone that I may have told him I loved.
But don't, anyway, here's what he did to get out of it.
Right.
He was many points behind by this stage. He left the campaign trail in New Hampshire. He flew down to Arkansas, where he was still governor, to personally supervise the execution of a lobotomized black inmate, Ricky Ray Rector by name, in Cummins Prison, who couldn't even understand the charges against him. He'd blown his brain away. He was gone. He didn't know he'd been sentenced to death. He didn't understand when they came to give him his last meal what was happening. I think it was an atrocious thing to do. It suggested something faintly monstrous about the guy, and it suggested that there was probably nothing he wouldn't do. If a Republican governor, an ambitious Republican governor trying to be president, had, in the course of a tough primary, returned to his home state to supervise the execution of a retarded, mentally disabled black man, the name of that man would be very well known. I think you'll agree. We would know.
I'm not arguing whether he should.
We would know, right? Ricky Ray Rector's name is practically not known at all. That's in a sense, my point.
Your point also is this for you is a defining, the trail of the liberals, is a defining what? This act was for him a defining insight into his character, and what else?
Well, I thought so, and I thought it showed as I say, a creepily sadistic attitude, and a willingness to bid for the racist subconscious as well in the electorate, to say, look, don't call me soft. I can snuff this black guy who doesn't know what the charge against him is. Willingness to bid for that. A willingness to get really rough when he was already engaged on lying on another front about Miss Flowers in changing the subject. And and what I consider to be an eerie and unattractive ability to get liberals to keep their mouths tight, shut, which they shut them then, and they've kept them shut ever since, about that kind of calculation and what it entails.
Because liberals, I assume the indictment here against liberals and then the Democratic Party is that they made a cop-out because they wanted a Democrat in the White House for all the spoils that come.
Roughly speaking, yeah.
That's it. That was the deal they made in their own.
Yeah.
And Republicans are prepared probably to do the same thing in the year 2000 in terms of accepting someone less conservative than they'd like to seek because they want to be back in the White House. Correct?
That's one element of triangulation, yeah. And it's also sometimes called, traditionally that was called the, the lesser evil theory, where you simply say in advance, well, this guy, I'll vote for whoever the nominee is, but it's a pretty arid form of politics. And there were better people running against Clinton for that nomination. I think many people could have taken Bush that year, as a matter of fact. I don't think it took Clinton to do so. But people, it's the way, however, you have identified the way in which people console themselves. You've identified the way in which people explain these things to themselves, yes. Justify them to themselves.
It's a political compromise.
Yeah.
I give up principle that I may believe in because of... But you had other...
They grant themselves the principles, of course, but only in order to give themselves the right to sell them out.
Yeah.
They may not have had the principles to start off with, actually. Not always true that they did.
I'll go back to your point. You're saying that this book is, in fact, how liberals, in a sense, lost their soul because of Bill Clinton and wanting to see him in the White House. And B, that Bill Clinton is, for you, almost the embodiment of all evil.
Well, I think he's an abnormally ghastly individual in every respect, yes.
In every respect?
Every respect, yeah.
Because he lies about?
Because he lies about everything to everybody, no one left to lie to.
And I'm not disagreeing with your point of view about that. I'm just saying that you weigh it with much heavier contempt than most people. You can say, look, that's...
Well, remember what I'm pushing back against. I'm pushing back against a huge consensus of people who said, for a long, long time, all this is his private stuff, it's none of our affair. I mean, they didn't say that about other corrupt presidents. So this corrupt president and this crooked president has come with a huge bodyguard of falsity and propaganda supplied by intellectuals and academics and journalists for him, which Mr. Nixon couldn't count on getting, didn't get, nor Mr. Reagan. So it seemed to me, it was more incumbent upon me to say what I thought and to point out how people were fooling themselves and fooling others.
As one who is a huge admirer of yours.
Thank you.
I say that because of your polemic skills, because of you're a very interesting guy, and you've been on this show more than once.
Indeed, too kind.
Having said that...
I knew the other shoe was going to...
No, it's not. Have you ever asked yourself, maybe I'm just overboard about this guy. I've just let myself go nuts about this, and I need to come to some saner place.
Yeah, I've asked myself, and it's been said to me by other people.
No, sure.
Believe me. And in a way, I guess I could say the book is an attempt to get him out of my system. Yes.
Really?
But I thought,
kind of catharsis.
I started writing that this is a dangerous guy in January 1992. I'm going to see it through now. I'm going to see it through to the end. And you know what? I'm going to be vindicated, too. People are going to be saying to me a little while from now, as they already are beginning to, maybe you were right about the guy all along. So that might be the reward for looking a bit obsessed for a while. Well, then what I would hope was people wouldn't give themselves away, wouldn't sell their votes and their principles so cheaply to people in the future, and not to a politician like this one, ever again.
Is it possible that you were so wrapped up in your... What's the best word? You're the much more...
bottomless contempt for...
Yes, bottomless contempt would be good, that you can't see straight about this particular... Because everything you see...
I think it's everyone else who didn't have enough contempt to see straight. I think it's everyone else who said,
your contempt
oh, this is private.
Your contempt is so bottomless and so deep on every issue that it's like, except for, which I was going to raise and you carefully did yourself, Ireland.
Yes. Yeah, I'll give him that, sure.
You know.
But no, it's contempt, but look, there was a remark of Lenin's I used to be very fond of. He said that what you have to do is have your heart on fire and your brain on ice.
And that's where you think you are? Your heart's on fire because of what you...
I'm not in a stew about the guy. I just look at him very coldly and I think this is disgusting. Now, why? Of course it's true.
Could he just be...
Either I am wrong or a lot of other people are.
Could he just be a guy who is a politician who has been... Well, let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
Let me... What? He's a politician consumed by ambition... and actually genuinely wants to do something and wants to, in effect, make a difference. And you may have political differences because he's not in favor of a litany of programs that you're in favor of, and because he tilts to the conservative side or to the center. I mean, some say that his most extraordinary
to the
achievement...
right, I would say.
No, you won't. But the most extraordinary achievement is he brought the Democratic Party to the center. That's what he's contributed to in 8 years in the office.
The Democratic Party was in the center the year I was born, which is 50 years ago now.
So
I'm not very impressed about that.
That's center in the polemics that you
Actually,
know.
center-right under Truman, I would say. So, no, I don't think that was a great historic task. No, I just think his rule has been a long period of nothingness punctuated by nastiness, I would say. And that's going to be his epitaph.
Okay, let me sum up here. This president will serve out his term.
Well, I guess, yeah. Reconcile.
He'll continue to prosecute the war.
He'll continue to refuse to answer questions about whether he's a rapist. He still hasn't said a word about that. Doesn't that give you a shock? He won't answer the question.
Is there...
People think it's his word against hers. He hasn't said anything yet.
He said his lawyer has responded for him.
A lawyer who he didn't know at that year, and as far as I know, has never been in.
Well, but this is the lawyer that speaks to him now. Come on,
you'd want to do better than that if you'd be accused of rape, I think.
Well, no, I mean, if you're going to have a lawyer speak...
I know a lawyer who will say it's not true.
Can't go there. I mean, if you can have a lawyer speak
sorry.
to... Well, no, he didn't have a lawyer at that time, did he? Did he have a lawyer?
He was the Attorney General of Arkansas at the time.
But I mean, she didn't bring the charges. She didn't bring the charges at that time, so he had no need to have a lawyer at that time. So the lawyer you would bring forth at this time is the lawyer who's representing you. I mean, that's who happened to have just gone through and you've had exhausted...
He has no knowledge of the case, that's what I'm talking about. You'd want to do better.
But who had a knowledge of the case?
Well,
what lawyer had knowledge of the case?
Someone, or of the circumstances of the time. There have been inquiries before. To say, if I said to you, a plausible, respectable woman with no motive of malice has laid a charge of sexual assault against you, what do you say? Would you be content to say, well, I know a lawyer who will say that it's not true? I think you'd want to do...
Right.
Male self-respect would make you want to do a little better than that.
Of course it would. No,
well, you notice, by the way, it doesn't matter because no one is asking Clinton these questions. So he doesn't have to keep refusing to answer.
And the same argument...
I can't believe the laziness of the press.
The same argument could have been made about Lewinsky from the beginning. I mean, you would say, why doesn't someone come out and defend and make the position clear early on? And that argument was made at that time and was also made, and you make it now.
Well, he did deny that, of course, but he was lying through his teeth. But then,
yeah, but it wasn't denied in terms of full questioning and wasn't protesting to the fullest extent that might have been done. Although it was a protest, but it was short. And my point again, No One Left to Lie To is this book by Christopher Hitchens, who states out clearly his feelings about the President of the United States and also the business with Sidney Blumenthal, an aide to the President in the White House and a friend of Christopher's who he hopes will be able to regain the friendship at a future time. Most journalists seem to want to lecture to you.
Well, I think a lot of people didn't like me anyway. But
well,
it was a field day.
That's a whole other show. Thank you, Christopher.
It was a pleasure.